Greetings and welcome to MentorMe Memorable Moments. We were having a moment before we came on air. Well, welcome. I am your host, Tracy Everette.
And I'm your co-host, William Craig III. And we'd like to welcome all 150 nations and all 50 states of these United States to this edition of Mentor Me Memorable Moments. What do we have for our guest today?
Well, we're on the set of mental health, and we do have our health practitioners here. We have Felicia Jamison, who's our certified healing coach, and we have Dr. Michelle, who is our registered naturopath doctor. But we're going to start off the section with Felicia Jamison and healing the inner child.
All righty.
Talking about healing your inner child tonight. So I am very excited about this because on a weekly, daily basis, sometimes I see people who they're adults, but something gets triggered in them and you see a behavior come out of them and you're like, who am I really talking to?
Wow.
And I just know that healing can happen for us, and so I want to talk about that tonight, and I want to open up people's understanding. Where did this stuff start? How does it get in, and what happens?
That's right.
And next slide, Mike. So once you know how it got in, then you can start a path of healing. It's like, were your parents in the home to influence you? So when you live in a home where your parents aren't accessible for whatever reason, or through work, they're not there, that affects that. And you look at that picture and you see a father that's with his children before they're going to go to school, to reinforce who they are, to lift them up, to motivate them, to listen to them, to make sure that they're feeling okay or that they're not worried about something. So when you don't have that influence of an adult to mentor you, to lift you up, something starts to creep in right there. Next slide, Mike. So when you start thinking about even, were you clean and well-groomed for school? Because how you present yourself to the world is so important. And when people aren't well-groomed or have a body odor, and then you get at school and you're picked on,
Right.
and you don't even know how to explain to them, well, you know, we don't have the resources, or nobody's teaching me how to care for myself.
Right.
So those
Right.
things start to be the gateway. What happens at home, how you're cared for. A person helping you have esteem about yourself and feel good about making yourself look great and presentable. So when you start to open the door to that, it's like, that's the first place that stuff starts to creep in. And so we want to bring awareness to that tonight and make people start thinking about, okay, that's what happened to me as a child, but you don't have to live in your childhood as an adult.
Right.
That part of you is always going to be with you, and that is your experience of what happened in your life, but it does not have to define you.
Correct.
Just because you weren't clean then, well, you're an adult now. I mean, even if the budget is a little tight, you go by the dollar store and hook up
That's
what you
right.
need. You know,
That's
you don't
right.
have to live in what you were. So that's the first thing that we want to start bringing out tonight is you take control And this is the time when control is a good word. You get control over those mental pictures and images and thoughts that are haunting you or making you feel negative in your mind as an adult. Next slide, Mike. We look equal, but are we? So you're looking at some kids in a classroom and everybody has their pens and paper and working on their project, and when you look at it on the surface, everybody looks okay, but you don't really know what's happening in each individual home. And when you get a glimpse into that home and what's happening, then it's like we look equal, but maybe we're really not.
Right.
And the equality here, I'm not speaking about race or gender, but are there mental health issues in that home? With the finances, are there provisions for your dietary needs?
Sure.
When you start looking at, am I being neglected? And not to the point of saying somebody is beating you and abusing you, but when a child comes home and nobody's talking to that child, you're so caught up in your world that you're not asking that child, hey, what happened at school today? How are you?
What's your homework?
Yeah, what's your homework? You know, what did you do with your grades today? You know, how are you feeling about things? And a child having a parent that will talk to them about those things begins to show them how you collaborate, how you communicate, how you discuss, how you have empathy.
Right.
You know, instead of just you lock away everything and you're stoic and cold and nobody's talking and everybody's just eating their bowl of cereal and get up from the table and leave, or they're not even at the table eating.
Right.
True.
That's right.
In most cases.
You know, you're just sitting in front of the TV shoveling cereal or a sandwich in your mouth and nobody is even talking. That's a form of neglect. I mean, it's not beating that child, but you're not helping that child develop. So that child starts to become an adult and they don't even know how to talk to people.
Right.
They don't know how to collaborate in a work project because I was always by myself.
Right. Right.
Next slide, Mike. So these are the things we want to start looking at. If they only knew. They only knew what was happening at home. If they only knew when I go home, my mom and dad are just ripping each other apart, and I just have to go in the back room and I can hear them just ripping each other. You know, if they only knew after I eat lunch here today, there's not any more food at home.
Lord.
Right.
You know, if they only knew what I feel like because, hey, I'm taking the courses for people who read slow. If they only knew what that feels like inside of me. Am I okay? Nobody's validating me, telling me, well, this is a weakness you have, but you're good at this. So then this child starts to grow up with issues and feeling inferior. That child says, if they only knew my numbers, I can't get them out right. That they're you know, I can't do math. I try as hard as I can to add this. Why can't I add things like everybody else? Why do I feel all this energy? I can't sit still. If they only knew what I feel like inside.
That's right.
So these are the things that, you know, I want to bring out tonight. And for adults to say, it's okay. And one of the first places to start healing that is to get honest with yourself, because we're taught just tuck it, pack it down. Don't talk
cry.
About it. And and for the
Don't you
boys,
cry.
don't you dare cry.
Right.
Suck it up.
Suck it
right.
up.
Suppress it.
Exactly. And no, don't suck it up. Now that you're an adult, the first thing you're going to have to do as we begin to talk about healing is you got to admit it to yourself. And I was thinking about, how do you know to go get more bread and milk? You have to admit to yourself, the milk is low, the bread is about out, and I'm going to, just in that simple thing, I need more milk, I need more bread.
Right.
So then you have to admit to yourself, hey, I'm low here in this area. I don't feel okay. And that is the first step to admitting to yourself, something's not okay. When you see a person have extreme, intense emotion, you said something simple and you're thinking, oh my God,
Right.
what happened here? All I asked was about when was the project due?
Right.
And they just went from 0 to 60.
Right.
They're angry, they're gritting their teeth, staring at me, and you're thinking, what did I do? That's the trigger. You don't know what their triggers are,
Right.
but you've pushed a button. You've pushed that inner child place that's not healed. So that's one of the first signs is if your reaction does not match the situation, that's a signal to yourself, but it's also a signal to us, something's not okay.
Can I just jump in?
Yeah.
Sure.
Because I had a conversation this week about the same kind of thing, and the thought that came out of it was that we have to learn to change our communication. You have to change, and what you just said, I guess this would be step one, is for many of you, you have to learn how to change the communication with yourself.
Exactly. So part of that admitting in that moment of that trigger is saying, how old am I right now? I might be 20, 30, 40, 50, but right now in this moment, emotionally, how old do I feel?
Right.
And when you get in touch with that, then you say, okay, I feel like I'm 7. And then when you say, I feel like I'm 7, then you say to yourself, what happened when I was 7?
Where's the bell?
Bing,
Ding,
ding,
ding, ding. Yes.
What happened when I was 7? Okay, I feel like I'm 12. What happened when I was 12? Or I'm going to take it a little bit higher, because even though at 20 you're an adult, you're still in the forming of who you are as a person.
Sure.
You're going to college and those kind of things. Wait a minute, wait. I'm 45, but I feel like I'm 20. I feel like I'm 21.
Right.
What
happened? That's
at
right.
20? What happened at 21? So when you start getting in touch with that, you give voice to what happened. Then that part, I just love this. And I'm just so excited, because I'm like, okay, to the followers, to the people who are listening, I'm going to give you the steps what to do. So then you say to yourself, okay, I'm the adult now. I'm not 5. I'm not 7. I'm not 12. I'm not 20. I'm the adult, and I'm going to take care of that side of me. I'm going to take care of you. You begin to, even though in the intensity of those emotions, it is your reality and it is your truth, but it is not the truth.
Right. Exactly. That's right.
So when you get in touch with the fact that that's their truth, that's your truth. And if Dr. Michelle and I are talking and it comes out, well, what I don't need from Dr. Michelle is to go, seriously, Felicia, that is not true. What? That's ridiculous what you're saying.
Girl, get over it.
Get over it. Suck it up. No, when I bring out my 7-year-old to myself, I trusted myself enough to bring it out. Now I'm going to trust Dr. Michelle or William or Tracy enough. I'm going to present to you the 7-year-old Felicia.
That's right. That's right.
Then you need to be a person that I can really trust. And then you need to be gentle with me. You're
That's
dealing
right.
with a 7-year-old.
That's right.
Exactly.
I
right.
may look like old Felicia, but you're dealing with 7-year-old Felicia. And how would you talk to 7-year-old Felicia? You be gentle with her, and you say things like, well, Felicia, tell me what that felt like. Well, when you were on the bus and they did that, y'all, I hope I don't start crying, because stuff did happen on the bus. What did that feel like? What did they do? What did they say? Okay, well, what's your truth now? How are you feeling about that now?
Right.
And then you begin to gain the tools for yourself to say, they can't pick on me anymore.
That's right.
Right.
They can't make me feel afraid that they're going to beat me up after school for what? I don't even know.
Okay, here we go.
You know, it's like ridiculous. I'm going to get you after school. And then you're like sitting on the bus nervous. They're going to get me. They're going to. And that's creating all this stress and
Right.
anxiety. And I was sharing with Dr. Michelle about a study that was done, and it's called ACE, which is Adverse Childhood Events. And when you have all of these traumatic events, studies even show with that, and it's a TED Talk. You can Google that. kids have a lot of stress, but they're in this smaller body that really can't take all of that cortisol release.
Exactly.
And so then they start to get problems with their arteries, problems with their heart
right.
that they
That's
found
right.
out from the
That's
study
right.
because
Yes.
they've got this smaller
It's real.
heart.
It's happening.
You know, even if they're a baby, you know, they're in this home with all this tension and, you know, they're wondering where did all of this panic disorder and anxiety and heart problems and it's because their bodies were under a constant release of all of this negative hormone in their body. They're not 40 years old. They're not 6 feet tall. They're this tall and they've got all of this negative toxic stuff running through their body and we wonder why as they get older they're angry, they're lashing out, they don't know how to express themselves. So my expression is when I get frustrated, I'm just hit you.
Right. Because that's all they know.
That's all I know.
Or they're looking for some other emotional release.
Right.
You know, and then they turn to things like drugs and alcohol.
Exactly.
You know, peer
Nobody
pressure
ever
comes in.
came to validate them to say, wait a minute, you're frustrated about that.
Exactly.
And it may be very well normal for that child to be frustrated about something, but you help them learn how the coping skills and how to manage with that stress and that anxiety. So yes, we're talking about healing your inner child, but I'm also hoping that adults that hear this will remember what they need to do for their children. Next slide, Mike.
Yeah.
Isn't that funny? Because this is how bullies are developed.
Well,
Exactly.
Exactly.
So when you look at childhood traumatic events, abused in their home, low-income family, limited food resources, lack of educational resources, exposed to witnessing and seeing domestic violence. And remember, domestic violence is not just someone hitting, but even words and
Right.
hearing communication
Yes.
that is
Right.
not appropriate. Parents with mental illness diagnosis, that's huge. Because if you're living with a parent that has mental illness, they are not able to help you.
Right.
They're not able to help themselves.
Right.
An incarcerated parent,
Cognitive skills.
they're not there.
Right.
They're absent. They're not even in the home. Not having a relationship with one of the parents. Parents with substance abuse issues. Parents
Who are divorced.
Parents who are divorced. They're divorced parents. That is huge because with that divorce, a lot is going on when that divorce is happening that is also very detrimental to that child. And being bullied at school, being bullied on the bus. And then the last one, lack of adult or teacher support or encouragement. Okay, I want to talk now
I know you want to
about
talk about
that
last
one.
Yes.
Oh my
Yes.
God. So when you have teacher support and encouragement, that is so important because the teachers of this world are so important because even if my mom or the dad or siblings or whoever, they aren't encouraging me, if that adult is not there for me, then those teachers, how many times do you hear people say, oh, it was Miss Smith, when they rise to, I just want to remember Miss Smith and give a shout out to Miss Smith because Miss Smith was my favorite teacher in school. She this, she that. I'll give a true example from the other day for myself. I just turned in the first draft to the next book that I'm doing. And my healing coach instructor, we're doing the book together, and I'm the co-author of that book. Well, when I sent in my first draft, he sent, and I just have to say the words, it was so wonderful. He said, Felicia, the texture of your words, so rich, so full.
All right.
Okay.
Outstanding.
Okay.
I am so very proud of you. Y'all, I was holding my cell phone and I started reading and I was like, I need a tip. I was like, here, my grown self. Here, I mean, I feel good about myself, but just hearing this person who's written 30 books to my one book saying your words, outstanding. And then he told me my other assignment was to pick the photos for the cover. I absolutely love the pictures. And so I'm like, he likes my pictures that I picked, you know. He thinks this is great. And so I'm saying, here I am in my adult self, and I had a great childhood and great teachers. But look at what those words stirred in me as still a relatively new author. Okay. So you're validating this second part of my life and me being an author. So hearing that from a man who has written 30 books, your words, the texture. So I was like, so preparing for this show, I was like, that's it. Look at what a teacher does to a child. Okay, I'm telling my stuff. So my other trauma is that I can't type fast.
Okay.
When I would be sitting in class, it's this whole big classroom. Can y'all tell me? I don't even know her name. This is how traumatizing it was.
Okay.
She would stand and she'd say, "Time, begin." And I was like, and I'm like, why don't you walk around to some of the other kids? She was right there at me, right? And then she'd say, "Time." So then it was like your time was up and you had finished.
Right.
And so that was some of my trauma.
Okay.
But I can type. I did the books. Life went on.
Okay.
I just moved through some of these other slides. Next slide, Mike. So a low stress home is important, and it can affect your emotions, and that's the whole point of tonight. And we're just going to move through the slides quicker, Mike. That good nutrition, so that you can concentrate to even learn in school. Breakfast, having the food that you need, and not feeling ashamed that my meal ticket is not paid up, so I just get the peanut butter sandwich and some milk. I can't get a regular lunch like everybody else. Those things begin to affect how you feel, how you feel about yourself. And again, your young mind, so much is coming at them. Tests, homework, math, so they need our guidance. So when you did not have that guidance that you needed, those are tough feelings. You can go through the next ones, Mike. Keep going.
And we still struggle with that today on the job.
Right. Right. Can you raise your hand to speak with confidence in a class? Do you know the answer? Were you given the skill sets of communication that once you raise your hand, you can feel confident of how you will speak? Next slide. And again, did you have that, the teachers' support? Were they in your life? Were they validating what you were doing and saying a good job?
And helping you get to the next level.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
Because that's what my teachers did.
Right. That lady should have helped me with my typing, but that's okay.
Okay.
And
Wow.
did you have fun opportunities?
Yes.
Did you have things that could take your stress down? Can you imagine being able to go in music class? I remember having music class and chorus.
Yeah.
Those things were fun. Did you have those opportunities to take away some stress that you were feeling from the math?
That's right.
And the
Then,
typing.
and then when what happened on the bus or at school? Were you bullied? But if you're an adult, you can be healed. It does not have to end there because, say what happens on the bus stays on the bus. No, what happened on the bus gets into your emotions.
Right.
That's right.
And with good communication skills, that starts early in life. But it's never too late to seek healthy relationships. And we talked about those intense emotions and those reactions that you can have. So just remembering that those communication skills start early in life. Your childhood, home life, shapes your self-image. And when I see this picture, I think about the first thing that is a lie that people want to say to people who wear glasses is they want to call them what? Four eyes. Does she have 4 eyes? No. She has 2 eyes.
Right.
When you have a lack of school supplies or resources as you're an adult, you can get supplies. You can reach out for resources and do better with life for yourself. When you missed having opportunities to participate in developing the skill sets, you're an adult now and you can find ways to collaborate with your coworkers. You may have missed it growing up because you were withdrawn because of depression or sadness for your home, but there's hope for you to heal. And this one I love. Stress may have hindered you from getting the grades you wanted. Maybe you didn't have the confidence to raise your hand or do what you needed to do. But adults can go take courses to advance their career. And I say, go make that A+, because it's never too late. And then adults make their dreams come true.
Yes.
We're in control. You're not 7, you're not 10, you're not 12. And your graduation day starts in your mind. And even if it's not graduation from an actual university, just graduating in your own emotional life.
That's good.
To say, I'm going to celebrate my emotional progress. Hey, I don't melt down when I get in front of a typewriter anymore.
Okay.
I don't melt down. I don't melt down when people say negative things about me. I'm not going to melt down because I never felt confident. Whatever the issue is, we're adults now, and we don't have to stay where we were, and we can be healed. That inner child can be healed. And the last thing is just remembering, trust yourself enough to say, I'm going to admit this is where I'm weak, this is where I'm depleted, and begin to work on that.
There's a scripture that says, and help me with this, when I was a child, I spake as a child, and I threw away childish things.
I thought as a child, but now,
But when I became a man, I put away
childish things.
Mm-hmm.
And so how fitting to end with that scripture, because my tag is a renewed mind opens the door to your destiny. And so reaching destiny is renewing that mind to say, I'm not going to think those old thoughts. I'm not going to believe those old things. And so until next month, we'll come back. We've got some more great things to talk about, and we're going to be bringing a psychologist in to talk with us about some things. So stay tuned to know what else that's about.
I like this. I want you to also think about bringing in a segment on when we don't deal with those things, because you touched on it a little bit, then we begin to bring those things into the workplace and why there's so much violence now in the workplace.
Because you're working with somebody that's 40, but really they're 7.
Or I could be the one.
Right. Or, people come in with guns shooting up the place. That is not that 40-year-old man. That is some pain.
That's right.
From 12 years old. Nobody ever listened to me.
Right.
I never
and that's what I was going to say.
And they come
Nobody
in.
ever listens to me.
Right.
Right. Exactly.
Well, we're ready to listen to you.
Yes, that's right. So we're here with Dr. Michelle and stress. Get rid of that mess.
Oh, get rid of that mess. And you know what? That's what we've been talking about. Stress. Let's see. What does that say? Let's get rid of that mess.
Girl, it doesn't matter.
I can't see that. Okay.
What's in your heart?
Stress.
Yes.
I'm stressed out. How about that?
So it's normal.
My turn. Right.
It's
Like
normal.
I told you today, Will, it's my turn.
Okay.
I'm so not exempt. So what is stress, y'all? Stress is our inner mental, a physical and emotional response to external demands or pressures. I cannot handle this because you all have given me so much, or I have allowed in so much that I can't deal with it. It's just way too much. And because I don't have the tools to be able to deal with this, or I haven't actually admitted to the things that are stressing me out, it is way above me, and I can't deal with it anymore. So that's stress, mental, physical, emotional, and all of that.
Spiritual.
And spiritual, right, because it will take you to another place, where you are not even willing to even sit down and pray, and get your help from the real source.
You don't want to get out of the bed.
That's right. Don't even want to get out of the bed because I'm so stressed out. So the definitions of stress, let's see. There are many definitions of stress, but stress is the wear and tear on your body. Stress is the inability to cope with your problems. Stress is a loss of emotional control.
There we go.
And stress is the absence of inner peace. And like you said, Felicia, when you get to the place where you're screaming, oh my gosh, it's because somebody has just asked you a simple question, you know, and you're going off the deep end, you know, then chances are you're experiencing some level of stress. And when you get to a high level of stress physically, you know, you're suffering with headaches.
Right.
You know, you're suffering with heart palpitations.
Body pain.
Body pains. Your palms are sweaty. You know, your blood vessels constrict.
Absolutely.
All these physical things happen. And then you're letting out, you're exploding, you know. So
because remember, everybody told you, fake it till you make it. You were supposed to, you know, hold it in and fake it. And so here it comes. And it's usually going to come out when you are in the middle of a conflict. There's some kind of, and then it pushes it and it all pours out.
Yes. Exactly. So stress is a perceived threat, real or imagined, to the mind, the body, emotions, and spirit. Yeah. And that's what you just said. You know, it's perceived. It's your perception of what's going on, whether it's real or not. It may not be real,
exactly.
but this is how it is for me.
Right.
This is what it feels like.
Right. And regardless of what you think about it, you know, or how it got there. This is the way I perceive it.
It's that person's reality.
Yeah.
Right.
It's that person's reality. And then you hear people say, well, you need to grow up. Okay. Right there, where you talked about the child in me, how did you expect for me to grow up in this moment? I'm stressed out right now. Really? Right about now, I'm 10.
Right.
So how am I going to de-stress in this moment?
Right.
Although we do know some tools that we can use to de-stress in the moment, and we'll talk about those in a minute. So let's define stress, Mike. Stress is a state one experiences when there is a mismatch between perceived demands and our ability to cope. So now in my mind, I'm trying to think, oh, Lord, I can't figure this out. So I'm thinking one thing, and the situation is something else. Okay? And because I can't put the two together, the brain don't want to, for some reason, don't want to allow the two to come together. And so now I can't cope with the situation at hand. You know, because here stress brings, it brings a cloud. You know, it brings a situation where I cannot actually see what you're talking about. I'm trying to figure this thing out.
The brain fog.
Right, brain fog.
Brain
I'm trying to
fog,
figure
that's
this
it.
thing out. But for some reason, and you're right in front of me, and you're telling me what it is, but now there's brain fog, there's confusion, you know,
But
there's
then
my perception.
There's also an overwhelming, I can't say no.
Yes.
And so I have to agree to this.
I got to agree to this.
For whatever reason, I have to agree to this, and now I've got too much on me, and I can't do it all. I can't do it all.
It's
Right.
overwhelming. So here you find yourself right in this moment, stressed out. You know, stress is, it's a beast.
Yes, it is.
So in other words, stress is experienced when people don't feel like they can do everything that is expected of me. Don't expect for me to be this particular way for you when I'm in the moment of being stressed. I'm sorry. I can't handle it. Give me a minute and let me de-stress.
Okay. All right.
I need a bubble bath.
I need some lavender.
Oh, man. Okay. All right.
Okay. So so according to the American Institute of Stress,
Next slide.
75 to 90% of all visits to healthcare providers result from stress-related disorder.
You know,
Wow.
I teach and I deal with this subject very lightly, but I bring it to the attention of students of all ages, because the thing about this is oftentimes people are stressed and not aware that it is stress causing their disorders.
Yes.
They talk to people or go even to doctors, and doctors will then prescribe something to treat something that they think it may be, not understanding that the symptoms of stress mirror symptoms of diseases.
Right.
That's right.
That's
It
right.
is the underlying
Yes, it is.
cause.
So the reality is many people today, I believe, are not suffering from the dis-ease of the body per se as much as they are suffering from the dis-ease of the mind, which
right.
is stress.
That's right, the diseasement of it.
And we always say that when you go to the physician, you always have to tell the full truth. Because if
whole
you
story.
don't tell the whole story and the full truth, well, then I
You only
cannot
have a
prescribe
part.
exactly what you need,
Right.
because you're masking and hiding certain pieces of the
Right.
story.
Exactly.
Right.
That's
Right.
right.
And you can't get to the root of it because because I'm also a wound and skin specialist. So the more I know about how you got this and what happened,
Right.
then I can start to prescribe the right thing. And then sometimes, even though they're withholding the way it presents, I can tell what they did.
Right.
But with some things, you don't need that guessing game. You've got to tell the
Gotta
truth.
be. That's right.
Someone told me you ought not to lie to your mother, your doctor, and your lawyer.
How about you?
Okay.
How about your father? Can you tell your father the truth too?
Well, we're
your
going to tell them the truth.
Oh my
yeah,
goodness!
yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
But you know, it's something about mom.
Yeah,
Whatever.
absolutely. So here,
Sorry.
next slide, please, Mike. So here are some of the most common emotional signs of stress: tension, anxiety, anger, reclusiveness, pessimism or the cynicalness, boredom, irritability, resentment, and inattentiveness. And the frequent physical symptoms of stress would be recurring headaches, fatigue, insomnia, digestive problems, skin problems, back and neck pain, loss of appetite, and overeating and obesity.
Right.
Yeah. Stress and obesity, yeah, that's huge today. You know, because so many people eat to their emotions, you know,
Right.
And what's going on with them, and you know, in the moment, you know, what without even taking in
'Cause you-
consideration
Right.
that okay, now not right now. You know, this is not what
Your
I
body
need right
rhythm's
now.
off.
And then
That's
your
right.
your body rhythm is off. You know, and you know,
Don't
just
really
have to
need
be
a half
very
gallon of ice
mindful.
cream, right?
Yeah, right.
Don't need a half gallon.
And once
you
they
probably
start,
don't need any at all. But you know,
Hello.
some you could, you
and
know,
and that's
it's a
those
masking.
comfort foods. So
It is
once
a
they
comfort
start
food.
eating those high carbohydrates, high sugar foods, then it triggers you to just want more and more and
Sure.
more
And
of
more
it.
and more,
It's
right.
very addictive.
it's
Very
very addictive. So also, I don't know, Mike, do you have the next slide? So stress has the tendency also to mess around with those body systems.
That's it.
Okay.
You know,
Yes.
body systems, you know, and we want to be very mindful of stress because this is where we get a little sick in the body when we start dealing with the body systems, you know.
So what are some of the, because I had sent out social media that, you know, imagine yourself in what is that? A punching ring. What is that? Boxing ring.
A boxing ring.
And that stress is your opponent. And for every
Boxing everything.
strike stress does to your body, he'll hit the liver, or
Okay.
he'll hit the skeletal system, or
Right.
he'll hit
Right.
your respiratory system.
Right.
There's some damage that stress does to the body.
And that's what doctors talk about, that you can't see what's going on inside the body.
No.
Right.
You see the symptoms.
You see the symptoms.
manifestation of the
Right.
symptoms.
But the inside, stuff is breaking down,
The
stuff
body
is
systems.
dysfunctioning.
Exactly.
And think
That's
about
right.
when we get straight, it was like my stomach was in knots in
Right.
my gut. People will talk about in their stomach how
Right.
they feel that nervous energy,
Right.
you know,
Right.
and it's all from that stress.
But if you could take a picture of that to see the normal and then see it when it's doing that,
Exactly.
yes.
Exactly.
not realizing that it's affecting the entire body system.
Exactly.
Right, because the symptoms of stress is the manifestation of what's
Which
truly
goes
going on.
back to what you were talking about with inner childhood hurts. I mean, if that child is stressed, and this is what's going on in the body. 'Cause
Exactly.
I don't know about you, but I know that when I get stressed, my body starts
The shoulders,
tensing up. Everything tenses up until there's relief, and then when it's relieved, I feel so much pain and ache and tenderness, and because my body has been like this.
Like you've been in a car accident.
Yeah.
So that's because now at this point, this is where the fight or flight response come in at. You know, the brain says, okay, something's going on, guys.
Right.
You know, let's set her up, you know, for the fight or flight. Now, what we're going to do?
Okay.
You know, so the brain comes into play with this, you know, being stressed out, as you will.
Next slide.
And it's hardwired with an alarm system for our protection, and we just said that because it protects our immune system,
Right.
You know, it protects our lymphatic system, it protects the circulatory system, the heart, you know, and the lungs and all of that. You know, so when your brain perceives a threat, it signals your body to release a burst of hormones to fuel your capacity for a response. The body is an awesome machine.
It really
and
is.
It knows when to
Yes.
charge in there and to protect you from those things like stress. Stress is an invader.
Yes, it is.
right.
You know,
Yes,
it is
it
an
is.
invader, and it is there to just do damage. You know, and we have to be very mindful when we allow ourselves to step into stressful situations, so that so our body don't break down to the point of diseasement. You know, so you know that fight or flight. That's like the red signals of a car.
Yes.
You know, when the
light
car
comes on.
It's like
Yeah.
saying,
and it's telling the body, okay, there's something that's going on. You know, de-stress,
Exactly.
de-stress. You know, stop, slow down, do something.
Well, usually
you
we
know,
don't.
And normally we don't.
Yeah, I have a joke that I say about that. When we ignore that, our body goes, "Oh, really?
Right.
Oh, you
okay.
go. Oh,
Uh-huh.
I showed you that pain. Oh, you gonna
It
ignore
remembers.
that?
Right.
Okay.
You gonna ignore me? I said your back hurts.
Yeah, your back hurts.
Keep on. Next thing you know, you're trying to keep going, and you just lock up.
That's right.
Or
and it remembers.
You've got this in your shoulders. You've got a headache. You're feeling run down. Oh, really? You're not okay. Next thing you know, you're flat in bed with some flu or whatever because your immune system was so low, but it gave you some signals, but you didn't want to listen, and that body will put you in the bed.
Yeah, and your nervous system begins to come into play with this, you know, and then now your body is suffering with pain, you know, and then it becomes, you know, not a really good thing for the body to survive in, for you to survive in.
You had something to say?
It's on the screen.
Oh, wonderful. Oh, okay.
But I want to read the scripture that says, "Come unto me who are weary and burdened, I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble at heart, and you will find rest for your souls, for the yoke is easy and your burden is light." And God has given us that, you know, to, you know,
That rest
pray
is
with
important.
us.
In Him.
And to
It
know
is.
that
In Him.
In Him.
don't
That's
let,
the operative.
Right, it's sweet. Don't allow stress to take you down. You know, it is a yoke, but God's burden is light. So we need to rest in that. Okay, so how can we manage our stress?
Okay.
Okay. So we know, like ourselves, you know, we juggle multiple responsibilities, you know, at home, at work. We're mothers, we're husbands, we're caregivers. We have all these relationships. We do this, we do that. We don't know how to take the hat off when we come home before we, you know,
yes, we do.
don't even shift.
We put on the cook hat, the cleaning hat, the
We
do
take-
the
no, we
dishes
keep the
hat.
whole hat on the whole time we there, and we never distress.
But that's the
You know.
problem. Because what happens is when we try, unfortunately, many of us don't know how to holistically, I'll say that, I'll use that word, and effectively de-stress in a way that doesn't cause harm to ourselves. Because we'll find a way to de-stress.
Unhealthy
But
is it
hello, is it
that's
holistic?
right, that's right.
And
It's
is
not
it
unhealthy.
effective and not causing other issues, other forms of stress?
Right.
And sometimes
I hear you.
people
I
don't.
hear you big time.
And sometimes people don't like to get quiet and be by themselves to get quiet because
don't know.
Because when you do that, it's like you may have to deal with something you've been running
Right.
from.
It's
That's
bothersome.
right.
So
Or to
it's
deal with
like-
you.
When that's part of the
Yeah.
root you talked about.
Exactly.
See, and when that happens, that's a signal, that's a key, that's a sign, that's a clue that here's something you need to clean up.
Exactly.
You need to get rid of this so you can get rid of that.
Exactly.
Right.
So the first sign, the first thing to do is acknowledge that you need some stress management.
Right.
I'm stressed out. Oh Lord, and I probably need some stress management because after all, everybody on the job has told me, "What's wrong with you? You always stressed out." Or somebody at the home has said, "You know, well, you really need to chill out." You know. So how about if we recognize the fact that we need to get some stress management, some ongoing goal that will help to release your stress level, and then identify the triggers.
Exactly.
Those things
Exactly.
that
True.
stress us out. What is that? You know what? Every time my husband says something, he says this particular thing, and this stresses me out. I need to sit down and go, you know what? Is it really that bad? Is it really all that? Although in my reality, it might be all that. But I need to recognize that, you know what? It's really not all
Like,
that.
what is this
Right.
really
What
about?
is that?
Right.
Exactly. What is
Right.
this really? So recognize
Changing the communication
Yes.
Right. Right.
again.
So when and under what situations do you experience that causes the most stress is what I'm trying to say. And some causes of stress are easily to identify. Yeah, they are, because we do have some good stressors. Okay. My daughter is getting married.
Yeah.
That's a good stress.
Yes, it is.
But oh my gosh, she's trying to spend everything in my pocket.
Okay. Well, she wants you to
She
do
wants
all the
Right,
planning.
all the planning. That's a bad stress.
Right.
So things like relationships and jobs, things like that, financial difficulties, those are not so good stressors. Daily hassles, demands of the world. We're going through presidential election right now. Looking at all this stuff that's going on.
Stressful.
It is so stressful.
Yes.
It's very
Okay.
stressful because we don't know which direction to go. Commuting back and forth to work and a whole slew of things.
Or, even when you see your child getting ready to do something and you think they're going to burn their hand and you get that adrenaline rush, that's a good one because you need to go get that baby from
Right.
picking up the knife, the butter knife or whatever, or burning themselves. That's a good stress.
Right. So, Mike, can we turn to how can we manage our stress? Start by thinking about the strategies on how we're going to deal with the stress. Identifying what aspect of the situation
Is that the
you
next
can
slide?
control. How can we manage our stress?
I think it's the next slide.
We already did that one.
Okay.
With the continuation. Lastly, identify again what aspect of the situation that we can control. Okay, that's a good starting point. Okay, like falling asleep at the television. Okay, you know the news is not good. Why are you sitting there looking at the day on television when you know it's going to stress you out?
Right.
I think someone said during Super Bowl, or during the football season, you have a high level of abuse.
I'm sorry, I just remembered something.
Because husband is sitting there and his team ain't winning. He's stressing out.
But Dr.
Then
Michelle,
he go and say something out of his mouth to his wife.
he doesn't have to do that because
he's stressed out.
I'm Dallas Cowboys. My husband is Redskin, and we're in this house together watching these games. And all of a sudden, with 30 seconds left, my Dallas Cowboys did a screw up.
Yes, he did.
The
Yes,
remote
they did.
control in my hand went flying across the room and hit the wall. And that's when I decided only one of us can watch the football season. And I cannot do it.
Somebody needs some stress management.
It's not happening. So I just don't watch.
Tracy, did you act out?
Yes, she
Oh,
did.
yes. And it wasn't my inner child.
I was going to ask you, how old were you at that moment?
Right. That was that inner child coming out.
No, she said, I was a fully grown woman. I knew what I was doing.
That's
Exactly.
Yes,
Exactly.
indeed.
My team lost.
So how can we manage that stress?
That's the
We
key.
don't have to always figure it out.
Okay.
It's not for us to always figure it out. Get some help.
Okay.
Mom, they stressing me out. Or your spiritual guidance or whoever it is that you feel safe with. Call
And then-
them up and talk to them
And
about
back
it
to what
so that
Tracy-
you can release.
Right.
And back to what Tracy said, just knowing to say no.
Exactly. Knowing when to
That's
say
a good
no.
one. That
Yeah.
really
No.
is a good one.
Without feeling guilty.
Well, and here we
Yeah.
go, because I had people when I said no, and they tried to throw this guilt trip
They
on me
do.
that I was
Oh,
supposed
God.
to
Don't
be
they try
there
to throw
all
the-
the time, and I
Try
said,
to throw the guilt trip.
I know what my priorities are.
Right.
And
Right.
this isn't one of them
Right.
at this time. It isn't anymore.
Is it
Or
a
they
good
try to
thing
belittle you.
or a God idea?
Yeah.
Some things are
Right.
just good
Good.
things, but they're not what God wants for you.
Exactly. And people in that situation, they do all kinds of things. They try to belittle you and pull you down.
Guilt trip.
Self-trip. I mean, lower self-esteem and all of that stuff. Not good.
Right.
Okay. And then
Right.
do daily practice of stress reduction techniques. Stop.
Yeah.
Take a breath.
Yeah.
Reassess
Right.
the situation.
Change the
Okay.
state.
Change
That's
the
right.
scenery. Walk away from the
That's right.
situation. I don't care. Go outside, go upstairs, go in your man cave, girl cave, whatever cave, but just release yourself from that situation and take a deep breath.
I remember.
And
You
that
know,
deep
go out.
breath,
Okay.
that
It's very
is so
crucial.
important.
Because it sends a message to the brain
Exactly.
that says, okay, brain, I'm going to get this breath in. And the rest of the body, when you're taking the breath, the rest of the body goes.
The heart begins to
Okay.
react.
And it
The heart
brings-
slows down.
There you go.
And
Tell
there's
'em about
something
nurse.
called deep belly breathing.
Yes.
And you put your hand
the
on your
diaphragm.
belly.
Uh-huh.
And you fill it up to your diaphragm up to where your hand comes out, and then you slowly release the air. And
Yes.
you just do that about 10 times. That anxiety, that nervousness that you're feeling your
And
stomach.
the adrenal glands will
Right.
relate to
and
everybody
they
else.
react, and you just fill
It's
up,
okay.
fill up, and then you let it out
Right.
slow, and it triggers the brain, it
That's
triggers the
right.
heart, and everything just. And when you finish doing that, you just feel like a tranquil feeling will come over
Exactly.
you.
And the whole body relaxes.
So,
it's
Dr.
very
Michelle,
important.
Because we've got to wrap this up. How can
Okay.
they contact you to speak with you about
Okay,
this?
you can reach me at my telephone. My office number is 442-444-0147. You can also go to the website at Natural NATUREAL wellness.com, and of course Natural Facebook and Twitter Wellness Natural Wellness. And if you want to come, and I will be more than happy to teach you the mindful meditation in terms of releasing stress, because it is so very important.
Okay, great. Wow, this
Okay.
is both your segments
Yes,
were
ladies.
awesome.
Thank
they
you.
they were. Thank you very much, because I'm learning too.
To
I'm
de-stress.
learning. Yes.
Yeah.
So we're going to be back next week, and it's going to be financial health, which is me.
Tracy is going to have some special information for you to help you
Yes.
get your finances in order.
Exactly. that was so well done.
Good, man.
And so until then, we want you to be safe, be
be smart,
and
be
be healthy.
healthy.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hey! I'm off. When I dance to the beat of a drum and you don't hit and you dance it. So if I look off beat to you, well, the problem must be you, not me. Irregular, but never error.